Now, John, I really want to kind of dive into an incredible book that you published earlier this year. And I had the great opportunity to interview on our podcast, really talking about that. Obviously, for those, we're not going to talk too much into detail as much as we did on the podcast per se. But I do want to, I thought you mentioned some really timely advice that are going in. And you're obviously, your book is, titled, if you could, hold it up for
Yeah.
everybody there, Uncertainty, the Uncertainty Solution. And what was interesting is, of course, 2024, there are some interesting things that are happening right now at the macro. And I think it's interesting, a lot of family offices and high net worth and ultra high net worth, it's not just an investment thesis and a very curated, it's like an ever evolving kind of adjustment depending upon what the macro and the micro economy is doing. And their portfolio structure is optimized, depending upon obviously what's going on. So how are you helping a lot of these investors and these individuals navigating as the macro and the micro economy is adjusting according to what's going on?
Well, a big theme in my book, and by the way, my book is not how to invest, because, how could I be giving universal advice to people? Because I don't know that, I don't know that, we don't know their situation. The book is really how to think about investing, and referencing Charlie Munger, who, as everybody probably knows, passed away about a week and a half ago. He pioneered this concept of mental models. So these are nuggets of wisdom, or how the world really works, that we file away in our heads. And really what I came to realize through a decade plus of research into what do great investors do. And great investors have investment mental models that they store away in their heads that help them make the right decisions and have good behavior. And one of the important mental models in my book has to do with expert opinions on what's going to happen in the future. And so the way we advise clients, and also, I'm the chair of a $300 million endowment. I'm on a bunch of charitable boards where I'm involved in the investment committee. So not only just for our clients, but I think a big misunderstanding about investing is, to invest well, you need to be able to predict what's going to happen in the future. And that would be great, but it's just not possible. And embracing that the future is unknowable to a large extent is actually an essential thing to do to be a successful investor. So what we do when we look out to the future and what the future may hold, we actually embrace our ignorance and we invest our clients like we don't know, because we don't know. And that's incredibly powerful, because going into 2023, there was a Bloomberg survey of economists, and 100% of them said we'd have a recession in 2023. And if we had made investment decisions or changes to portfolios based on that outlook, we'd be really missing out, right? And this happens every single year, where there's all these different predictions of what's going to happen in the future, and if you follow them, you're typically going to be worse off. So it's better to invest like you don't know than thinking that you do know. And we saw it in November. Like, November was one of the best months in the stock markets in the last 20 years. Like, who saw that coming?
What I found very interesting is it's a very data-driven approach. And you also look at it, like, in your book, I remember specifically a story that you mentioned where it was this correlation between, hey, active investors versus individuals that don't, actively. And you mentioned something in your portfolio in regards to like your clients. The one that actually outperformed everybody else's was actually like a high school student that didn't actively, trade, so forth, and they actually had a better return in the last few years. And I thought that if you could just share that story, because I thought that was it highlighted a really good response in regards to the mental model of the
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah, and I think it was the year was 2020, maybe it was 2021, but I don't remember the exact year. But I was looking through. So we work with 63 families, but that's hundreds of portfolios, right? Because a family includes multiple generations. They often have a lot of different entities. Maybe an investment LLC, a bunch of trusts, and everything. So it's over 600 portfolios. So I was looking through returns, kind of ranked from top to bottom. I was trying to glean, some information on, why did some people, some portfolios do well versus poorly. And the top performing portfolio of our, at the time, probably, $13 billion was one that had about $15,000 in it. And it was of a client of ours who's a middle schooler. So obviously a younger generation, and it was just, gifts from grandparents and stuff. In fact, I don't even 15,000. I think it was less than $10,000. But anyway, her name is Sophie, and she was in the 8th grade then, and she had, with our help, purchased 3 stocks. But the stocks that she bought were Apple, Netflix, and Tesla. And she did that because her favorite TV show, which was some sort of a Japanese anime show, was on Netflix. She had gotten an iPhone, the previous Christmas, her first smartphone, and loved it. And her friend's father drove a Tesla, and she thought it was really cool. So she bought those 3 stocks in 20 and going into 2021. And as you can imagine, that was by far our top performing portfolio. So it really tells you about skill versus luck, because Sophie has no skill when it comes to evaluating stocks. Like we in the meeting where she picked those 3 stocks, we educated her on, here's what a stock is. So, really, when you look at the contribution of skill versus luck to anything, a key question to ask is, can an amateur beat a pro? And if an amateur can beat a pro, it means that there's a lot of luck involved, more luck than skill oftentimes. So, for instance, like if I were to swim against Michael Phelps or Katie Ledecky or anybody, like they would beat me 1,000 out of 1,000 times, right? But if I were to put my stock picking skills against Warren Buffett, or pick whomever you want, could I beat them over a year? Absolutely, right? Because there's so much luck involved in buying stocks. So it just shows you that there's a ton of luck that goes into investment returns, which is, I'm sure I'm sure it's not news to anybody in this call. But what's important is, when you do make a good call, you do make a great investment, realize that there was a lot of luck involved. And when you do make a poor investment, realize that there was, a lot of luck involved. Don't read too much into the results. It's called the resulting fallacy, to quote Annie Duke. Don't read too much into the results in investing, especially over the short term, because of the contribution of luck.